Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Space Game Junkie podcast. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian, and joining me this morning is your co-host, Spaz.
Brought to you by copious amounts of caffeine.
Brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy, when you really need to be awake for 5 more hours before you collapse. No. As we said, it's a morning show, folks, because our guest is in Paris, France. Joining us to talk about Helium Rain is Gwenelle Arbona. Did I say it right? I'm pretty sure I did. I wrote it down, but did I say it right?
Yeah, that was great. Hello, guys.
God. Okay, that I've honestly never seen that name before. That's the first time I've ever seen this name. Is that a common name?
It's not even a common name in France. I get that a lot.
Oh, really?
In the country, so
okay.
You're fine.
Okay, well, that's awesome. But welcome, Gwenelle. First off, folks, we're here to talk about Helium Rain, and just a quick thing, we are very biased toward this game because we love it. We love it so much. We've been playing it for a couple months now. I did a video of it, which is on the stream back in...
And we also have a dedicated channel in our Discord for it.
Yeah,
so
we have
full disclosure.
We love it that much. We have a dedicated text channel for it. I did a video of it a couple months ago. I need to do a new one because you've made some significant changes since then. So, folks, if you're not aware, Helium Rain is it's a first person, well, I guess third person as well, but mostly first person combat, trading, and business game where you're running, like a lot of games like Privateer and Elite, you are like an independent contractor. You're basically running a corporation of one, basically. But in this game, this takes it to a next level where you're actually running a corporation of multiple ships. You can build stations. There are a lot of people are going to... Morning Coder Mana over on Twitch. A lot of people are going to draw comparisons to the X games. And let's just say right off the bat, this is already better, in my opinion, because this game knows how to make a UI that you don't have to struggle with. We were talking about that a little bit before the show, but if you guys can see on the stream, the UI is kind of a wonder in this game. We'll talk about that. So, Gwenelle, let's start at the beginning. How long ago did you start working on Helium Rain?
I think I started working on the design documents 4 years ago, and actual development started 3.5 years ago. So it's been quite a ride.
Oh, and no wonder it feels so polished already. And it's running on remind me of the engine. Is it Unreal?
Yes, it's Unreal.
Which one? 3, 4?
Unreal Engine 4, and I think we did pretty much every minor version of Unreal Engine 4 since it basically came out 3.5 years ago, and as soon as it was available, I started working with it. Basically, the game was started development with another engine, and I switched to that as soon as Unreal Engine came out. So it's as old as the engine itself, basically.
So what was the impetus to start working on this? Did you see one of the X games and go, "Wow, that's awful. I can make something better"? No, seriously. I'm sorry, folks. I don't have a lot of hate on the X games, except that they do a lot wrong with their UI. I basically feel like they're not space games. They're business games that just happen to take place in space, and they don't feel like. I mean, they don't really feel great to me. They've never been fun, really, a lot of the time. I really hate to slag on them, but it's just like I feel like I'm fighting them more than I'm playing them, and that is definitely not the case here. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, what was the impetus, Gwenelle, to make Helium Rain?
I don't even know how exactly it started. I just knew that I wanted to do a game that was a bit different because I wanted to be more realistic than most games do. Not realistic like a game like Kerbal Space Program, which is great too, but at least have a universe that made sense. I think in most science fiction you have teleportation, time travel, shields, super advanced weapons, and I just wanted to do something a bit different with classic guns, no teleportation, no time travel, and the idea at first was just to create a game that was around one planet and just one planet. So we've changed that a bit. Now we have multiple moons, but mostly that was the idea. Just stay local, stay around one planet, and try to imagine something that makes sense, basically. And so, of course, I think the X games were a big inspiration. I've been playing them quite a lot. But it's a mix of different games, I think.
Yeah, it really is. And folks, if you haven't grokked from what we've talked about already, one of the big differences between this and the X games, excuse me, is the UI. Now, one thing that a lot of games like this don't get right, I feel, is the UI. The X games, Elite Dangerous, they don't make things like trading very easy. I mean, they make it a struggle. Elite doesn't have a great time of it because, one, it's got a crap economy, and two, it's so big. But here, because you have a finite universe, you've been able to make a UI that makes trading, for example, much more streamlined than it is in just about any other game I've dealt with. Which is really nice, because you would think if you're living in so far in the future that you have spaceships and stuff, you'd think there'd be a way to have some kind of trading network where you could see what the prices are, you know, around your quadrant or whatever,
One
you know?
would think.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I love about Space Rangers, for example, because you can just, at any time when you're docked, pull up info on a planet and get the prices on that planet, you know? Which just makes sense in a futuristic society, you know? So, I'd like to ask about the UI, because that's probably one of my favorite things about the game. How much work has gone into making the UI so, and it still has work, like the trading is a little for example, setting up a trade route, I mean, is still a little but but for the most part the UI is absolutely stellar. So how much work has gone into making such a good UI?
Um, in terms of volume, it's basically a third of the game. If you look at the source code, it's basically a third of the total code that there is. So it's a lot of work. And the worst part is that most of the code is just a part of the. Had to rewrite it multiple times. Yeah, I know, for example, the trade route menu is not that great. And actually, the version that you have is like the third version. The orbital map menu has been done a few times too. I'm not even going to talk about the ship menu. Basically, there is a lot of work because we try one thing, we see how it goes, and then we have to redo some parts over because they're not that good, and it goes on and over and over. See a lot of time, and it's a lot of time that you can't really ignore. You have to try something, and then you have to see what went wrong, what went right, and see where you go from there.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I think one of my favorite things about the UI is the economy menu. Because a lot of this game involves, when you're building a station or when you're building a ship, you need to deliver specific resources, and a lot of this game involves bringing those resources from one place to another to build your station or to build your ship. And the UI for trade, like, oh, I need 100 units of metal or steel. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, this system has it. Boom, I'm going to go there. The sector menu, that's who outputs it. Done. It's just so much more efficient than just about any other game I've played like this.
I think a good part of why we could do something like this is that the UI system that we have in Unreal Engine is a UI system to make applications. Basically, the Unreal developers created this UI system for their editor, which is a very, very, very big application.
Oh.
And the fact that we can use the same tools, it's very good because we have lists, we have buttons, we have images, we have scroll boxes. So every time we want to do something, at least we can start with something, which is usually not good. It's usually not enough. But at least we have something that we can build upon. So I have to say that the engine is pretty good for this. And of course, it's a lot of work on top of that. The hardest part, I think, is to just know what we need on the menus, to know how we're going to display it, or what the players are going to need, how we have to present it. For example, the trade route menu, which is still not that good. It's very hard to do because we don't exactly know what we need to show the player. So that's very hard, and that's something that we have to try it, and then we have to see if it works. I think right now it kind of works, this menu in particular, but we know it's still not perfect.
Right. Well, one thing I love about this game is that you're basically running a business, and the tutorial is really intense, which I love. I'm about 3 hours into the game, and I'm still doing the tutorial, which is great. But one thing I love about it is the game wants you to build stations. It wants you to build, trade routes, but you have missions, which I love because I don't always want to build a station. I just want to run. I just want to run VIPs around and be a taxi, and you have that. So let's talk about that for a minute. How are missions how are missions generated? Because they're I like how they're not you don't have to go to a mission computer. They're just kind of there. They're just kind of these people need this done. You got to go to here to do it. Are they generated from a pool of missions, or are they generated based on the needs of the economy, or how are missions generated for the player?
I'm glad you asked, because it's I think it's one of the highlights of the game.
I agree.
Basically,
I agree. I love it. I love it.
Every contract that you have in the game is actually generated depending on what people actually need. For example, if you have two factions fighting, each faction can offer you a contract to help them out, and you're going to have two contracts saying, "Hey, can you defend me against this guy?" And the other guy is going to be like, "Can you help me kill this one off?" And it's the same for trading missions. Stations that need resources are going to offer you money if you can bring them these resources that it actually needs. A bit like filler. They don't have an actual purpose to the economy, but most of the missions, they actually have a purpose in the game. And the idea was that you could make decisions, decide who you wanted to support, and I think it's more interesting than just having missions that are generated. So they're generated, but they actually have a meaning and they actually have an impact in the game.
That is awesome. And one thing we haven't touched on, which you just kind of brushed upon, there are, while you are a corporation, you're like a little independent corporation, there are much larger corporations in the game that own all these stations, and you can work with or against them, not just with missions, but there's a diplomacy screen that lets you declare war on them. It lets you pay a tribute to them. So, but I haven't really played much with that. So how but I've noticed that as I've gotten further in the game, that has become more and more of a thing as they expand. So are they also, as you play, are they also doing their own thing? Are they also making money and building missions and doing missions, exactly, and things like that? So there's a whole.
They're not doing missions, but they are trading. They are trading with each other.
Okay.
They are creating stations. They are creating ships. So they are very, very, very dynamic, and I think it's very interesting because you can see them progress. Every player is going to have a different experience. Some players are going to have the pirates running the world, and other players are going to see like Nema Heavy Works running the world. I think it's pretty fun.
Oh, so that can be dynamic based on, like, each game can be a little different based on how much control each of these corporations has?
It's going to depend a lot of random factors. It's going to depend on what you do. Um, if you have two factions fighting off and you want to take sides and help one of them, you're going to see that faction rise in the diplomacy screen, and you can make another faction disappear. So it can be very, very dynamic.
So wait, there's this whole, because I don't really see much of this, and it sounds like the player doesn't see much of it, they just see the result, but there's a whole background simulation of diplomacy and trade going on behind the scenes that affect how the layout, the political and economic layout of the sector evolves as you play the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
What we wanted to do was, like, if you attack freighters for a faction, we wanted that faction to lose value, and we wanted the resources that were lost in the battle to be more valuable because they were more rare. And there is a lot of stuff that is simulated. The population is simulated. You can have the population migrating between sectors.
Whoa.
You can see different companies have a larger or smaller values, and it's so complex that one of the biggest challenge that we had was to make sure some factions were going to work as a structure for the world. Basically, make sure that every resource had a provider. Because if you want to attack different companies in the game, if you want to attack the competition, that's fine. But if you actually manage to kill off every competitor, you can actually kill the game for yourself too. Because you can make some resources completely unavailable. So the reason you have small and large companies is that it's fine to attack small companies, but if you want to attack the larger companies in the world, you have to make sure that you can actually be there when they fall to pick up their place.
Oh my God. That's amazing. I didn't know that. I didn't know that, like, Unreal can handle that kind of level of background simulation. Oh my God.
It's been a lot of work to make that work. It's one of the reasons right now the prices are not very dynamic. If you play, you're going to notice that the prices of resources, they're pretty fixed, change a lot of time, and that we don't trust the companies, the company AI yet. We don't trust it to be reliable enough for everyone.
But that is something you are.
Wheels.
Sorry, that is something you are planning, is to have a more dynamic supply and demand.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
We're
my
going
God.
to remove the training wheels in a future update once we know that they can actually, that they're not going to do nonsense and cause an economic crisis every time.
That's because, like I said, I haven't played much with that part of the game, but that's amazing. Because one way a lot of games like, say, Elite just fail is that their economy doesn't matter. Like, the economy does not mean a darn thing in that game. Like, you'll take blue widgets to one station and red widgets to another station, and it doesn't change a thing. That station has a few more blue widgets now. It doesn't change the price. It doesn't change the demand. It just feels so empty. You know what I mean?
As opposed to you bring, X amount of fuel and metal over to this station, and hey, suddenly you've got a new station. or you have an economy that's actually growing because of your direct actions, because you've
Right.
got a trade route or several trade routes going to that station. It makes it important.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. And to be fair, I think it's very hard to have the environment actually react to what you're doing. So we started early with that, so we are comfortable with it. But we also know that it's very hard to get working reliably, and it's also a big constraint. Like if we wanted to have a pirate attack, something like that, we can just spawn a fleet of pirates near the player, because that value has to come from somewhere. So we have constraints, and in exchange, we can create contracts that actually serve a purpose, which is great, I think. So it's a compromise, and I understand that other games don't want to make that compromise, because it removes a bit of creative freedom. But I think I'm quite happy with what we've done here.
Well, I think one of the reasons your game works in terms of, economy, generating missions, that sort of thing, is because it's not too big. It's not too broad. You have a good size universe to play with, and you make it feel large because of the time it takes to get anywhere, that sort of thing. So you haven't had to make this thing where it's a mile wide and an inch deep, which is really, really nice. That's why I think smaller in scope games like yours work better than larger games like X, for example, or whatnot, because it allows you to make a more vibrant and varied ecosystem, I guess is the word. But you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
because you have a set number of planets and sectors and whatnot, and that allows you to really focus on making each one unique, making each one vibrant, making the economy work for all of them. And that I think that's a really good
That's why
choice.
that's why some of them are uh, focused on a specific type of resources. Some of them provide helium that you need for fuel. Other ones are better for getting solar power, for example. So, and some of them are just dead. There's nothing there.
Which I like. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's okay. It's space. Of course, you're going to have that.
So let's talk about like how this universe came to be. Why don't you fill folks in on what the backstory is on the Helium Rain universe up until where you enter the game?
yeah, sure. The the story in that game is that a colonial fleet was sent to explore that system. A star, the planet Nema, which is a gas giant, and the moons. And that fleet was sent because it was thought that the moons could be inhabitable, and that people could land and colonize them. And once they arrive for real, they see that they can't actually land on the moons because they're barren. There is nothing to do there, and it's like because they didn't expect that, they didn't plan for that, and they have to just stay in space with a ship.
Is
Some
that
of
why?
them want to.
I'm sorry. Is that why a lot of the habitats just look like remade like cargo containers and ships and stuff like that because they had to improvise that
Yeah,
sort of thing?
it's also why some of the technology is lost. It explains why you don't have access to every technology you could think of. And the idea is that some of them wanted to go back, some of them wanted to stay, and they fought, and they just lost the means to go back in the battle. So now you have a large population that's stranded there in that system, and they're just trying to survive. They're trying to build a new home for themselves. You come in, you have a company, and you're trying to to fill the blanks in the economy to make sure everything works. And if you don't want to do that, it's fine. You can just fight and be a mercenary, be a pirate, help people out.
Yeah,
it's a good choice to make.
Yeah, like I said, I really like how you have, with the inclusions of missions and combat, you have the option to not run a company. You can just be a pirate if you want to, or you can just be a mission runner if you want to, or you could build stations in every sector if you want to, and become a business magnet. Now, can you become like one of the large, because the game starts with several large companies, but can you become like a large company on your own if you build enough stations and you have enough of it?
Yeah, sure. You can actually capture stations too, so you don't even have to build them. If you're good enough with the military, you can just seize stations for yourself.
Oh, right. I think I did see a little bit of that. I think I saw that I was docked at a station that was being trying to be captured by somebody else, and there was a fight going on around me. I was like, oh God. And I was still in my starting little like mini freighter shuttle thing at the time with no guns. I'm like, I'm just gonna sit here for a minute and not. Oh God!
You can actually overtake even the biggest companies. It's just going to be hard and require some time, but you can do it. It's basically the entire point.
That's really that's kind of incredible. So there are multiple paths to dominance in this game, it sounds like, which is what you want in a game like this. You want to give the player the freedom to choose their own path, which is great. And one thing I like about, I want to talk about your tutorial a bit, because like I said, I'm 3 hours in and it's still going on. I love how not only how interactive your tutorial is, but one thing I love about, and folks, the tutorial goes through just about every aspect of the game, at least so far. I'm on station building right now and upgrading, but it goes through shipbuilding, it goes through combat, it goes through missions, it goes through all sorts of, just about every aspect of the game.
Docking is a major thing. Yeah, we need to talk about that too.
Oh yeah, because in the beginning of the game, you don't even have an autopilot. You have to do the docking yourself. And so, yeah, the beginning of the game, it's like, this is how you dock. And
yeah.
Which is important because, hey, there's a chance in combat you're going to lose your autopilot, and you have to remember how to dock manually.
Yep. Exactly. So I go ahead.
Yeah, the manual docking thing is a funny story because we didn't have that in the game at first. And we added it like an achievement. It used to be actually an achievement in the game, dock manually at the station. And I thought it was so fun that it shouldn't be just a sideshow, it should be a part of the game. And we decided to make it something that you had to... we decided to make the auto-docking technology that you had to unlock. And I think lots of people hated that at first because the docking was way too hard. You didn't have enough information on the HUD, and people were bumping into stations. We had a YouTuber actually try for 5 minutes to dock at the station and failing over and over and over again. And people in the chat were like, okay, maybe you should slow down and stop bumping into stations. We had to do lots of work to make the docking nicer to use, and I'm quite happy with how is it now. But it's very fun because we didn't plan to have that at first, like at all.
Yeah, and it is a lot of fun. But yeah, I guess we should talk about that a bit. There's not just business in this game, but there's research, and you have to generate. At first, you can only get research through like doing missions, but is that right? Am I remembering that right? Like eventually, I built a research station, for example, which is how you can generate your own research. But
yeah, exactly.
But this game has a research element where you have it's kind of an unlock system, and one of the first things you can unlock is an autopilot. But let's talk about that. Like, how did the research? Because that's one thing a lot of these games do not have is like some kind of like like permanent unlockable system like research. So how did that come to be?
Basically, we just felt that we needed a progression tool for the player to. One way to put it is that we have so much stuff going on that it's a good idea to not give everything to the player at first and have him work toward getting that. So most of the stations you can build them at first. You have to unlock the technology for that. You have to unlock most of the weapons and so on and so on. And the point of that is that it's not a tutorial because it doesn't explain, but it's a way to let you play and unlock some things. So you have time to learn the game, and then once you have played a lot, we can reward you with one of the more end-game features. For example, we don't want the player to build a shipyard when he just started the game because he's not going to get how to use it. It's going to cost too much for him. So it's a way to guide the player and tell him that some features are more for the beginner player and some features are more for the experienced player.
Right, and that makes sense to gate that stuff behind what feels like a very natural research system. I mean, it just really just makes sense in the game, in the universe, but also as part of the game's mechanics. It just really feels natural. So
well, there are so many things moving at once, so many factors that are in play that if it were to all be available at the onset of the game, it would be too confusing for most people.
Way too confusing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The sectors work the same way. You have to unlock them. You have to find them. When you start the game, you have only 4 or 5 sectors, I think, and we have 20 or 25 total right now. So there is a progression too. You have to build a station. You have to find those sectors, and it's the same reason. We don't want the player to wake up in a large, complete universe. We want the player to explore a bit and earn his access to that technology or these sectors.
It's very fair. It's very incremental as well.
Yeah.
You don't feel like, oh, I am being thrown into the deep end of the pool and now I have to learn to swim. It's you're gradually given more to do, and once you get the basics down, like docking, you have that skill. It's not something that you have to learn 5 hours into the game and suddenly you've lost your autopilot.
Yeah, and it's something that we added very late in the game. I think the research system is maybe the last major feature that we did before we went into early access. I wasn't even sure that we wanted to have that before early access. I think it was a good decision. But basically, we had to build first the core of the game, the trading features, the navigation, and when we did an alpha for the game, we didn't have contracts, we didn't have technology, research. So we added that, and I think it's much better now.
I agree. Yeah, like I said earlier, we are totally just enamored with this game because it just already gets so much right. It just gets so much right. So you've been in early access for how long now?
2 months.
Oh wow, that's it. How is that going for you? Have you been getting a lot of I'm sure one of the reasons this is so good is because of your own work, but are you getting a lot of good feedback as well that's helping you make the game better?
Yeah, the first month and the first 2 weeks especially were lots of bugs. We have something like 200 or 300 bug reports. So at first the feedback was very intense. I think mostly we have good feedback. I mean, we have quality feedback and we have positive feedback, which is not the same thing, but we have both. And lots of ideas that we see from the players are very good. The modular station system that we are working on right now is something one of the players suggested. And yeah, I'm very happy with the feedback that we have. We have good reviews, and we have lots of people commenting on the Steam discussions to tell us, hey, maybe you should try doing something like this. And it's been a great guide to know what we had to work on to, for example, we've been working a lot on the UI after we released the game, because even if we work a lot on this, it's still something that needs more love. So yeah, I think the feedback was very good, and it's a big reason why the game is to play now. It's because of so much feedback we're having. The
It's
first
worth
feedback we
mentioning.
had.
It's worth mentioning that you at this moment have 100% positive reviews on Steam.
Yes, that's a very good thing. The
That's
first feedback
amazing.
that we had in the alpha, so a year and a half ago, was like, it's a good shell of a game, but it's not fun. It's not enough. It's not good. And most of last year was like we had to reboot most of the game. We changed lots of stuff. We added the cockpits. We added the technology. We added many, many, many things, and that's why it's been getting better.
So how do you have like a plan for how long you intend early access to last, or is it just as long as it lasts?
We had a plan. The plan was something like 6 months. It's probably going to be a bit more, but I think it's going to be something like between 6 months and a year. And it will be in early access to add for as long as we want to add the story and things like that. And once we think the is done, we will release the game itself out of early access. Um, we don't really want to release the game before it's complete. So when
Totally.
we release it out of early access, it will be like it's done.
No, that makes total sense. We actually have a question from Twitch. Can we expect more ships in the future? 12 ships seems a little low. That's what they say.
I think people can expect a bit more ships. I'm not going to promise too much. Maybe we will add a few more ships, but something like 2 or 3 tops. We're not going to spend lots of time creating new ships because we want every ship to have a unique role. You have a bomber, a light fighter, a heavy fighter, a fast corvette, and so on. And the more ships we add to the game, the less unique they can be. So every time we have a good idea for a ship that would fill a specific role in your fleet, we try to build that ship. Right now, game, I don't think we lack something. But when we're going to add the fuel systems later with the next update, maybe we will need to add tankers. Maybe we are going to need a carrier. And we don't want to just make ships for the sake of making ships. We want them to be actually useful.
So wait, a carrier like with like small fighters or like with drones?
No, if we do a carrier, it will be a fighter transporting carrier that you can use in order to not waste fuel by moving a fleet of fighters around.
Oh my god, that'll be huge. Because fighters aren't small in this game. I mean, they're small-ish, but I mean, a ship to carry those things would be massive, wouldn't it?
I think we have actually a few massive ships in the game already. Some of them are very, very large. But yeah, if we do a carrier, it's going to be a big ship.
That's Awesome. So what kind of ship? I've only seen a few ships so far in the game. What kind of ships are in the game? I've seen freighters and like the starting shuttle, which I'm guessing is that a shuttle? Like, is that what that would be? Okay. And I've seen a fighter. So what are the other, like you said, bomber? But what are the other ships you can get in the game? Like right now, what are the other types of ships in the game right now?
Right now, you have 2 small freighters. You have 3 fighters, and then you have larger ships. You have 2 larger freighter ships, and you have 2 corvettes, 2 destroyers, and 1 cruiser, which is very deadly.
And you can build all those if you want. You can like eventually get your own shipyard and build your own cruiser and have a fleet and all that stuff. You if you want, you can do all that, right?
Yeah, you can.
And you can fly. Can you fly the cruiser yourself as well if you wanted to?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Right now, it's basically you can either fly it, so you're piloting it, or you can fight with it, and you take control of the turrets. You're not flying. You're not just piloting the ship. You're not. You don't care about the direction it's going to. You just fly the turrets, and you can aim for enemy fighters, for enemy ships, it's pretty fun.
Oh, I'm nowhere near that apparently. Now, if you start building, if your corporation gets big enough that you start building ships to protect your stations, can you make them like autonomous, like protect this station? I haven't gotten that far in the game. I don't know if you can or not, but that's why I'm asking. Like if you build, like say you build a bunch of fighters to protect this one station, can they be autonomous, like patrol here, protect this? Like is the AI that?
Sorry, we have a basic order system like that. If you leave fighters in a sector and you have a station and your station is getting attacked, those fighters are going to fight automatically.
Oh, so you didn't even really have to fleet. Oh, so you didn't really have to give them orders. You can just like leave them there and they'll do their thing.
If they're not in your fleet, they're going to behave in a natural way, which is going to be defend your assets. And if they are in your fleet, you're going to have to tell them to protect yourself or to attack enemies. And I think the default is to protect yourself.
Oh, so if I just left 5 fighters in another system, they would automatically just protect my station if it became attacked.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's great. That is fantastic. That's the kind of thing we need. That's the kind of streamlined gameplay I want to hear about. Because, like, I don't know about you, but my gaming time is limited, and when I'm playing a game, I don't want to waste time doing things that could otherwise be streamlined. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate how much work has gone into streamlining the gameplay of this.
It's not so much automate everything. It's more like I want to feel like I'm doing stuff and not fighting the UI or fighting the mechanics of the game.
Exactly.
I'm playing the game.
Exactly.
Yeah. And at first, usually the game requires you to do the manual stuff, and then once you grow a bit, you can automate it, and not have to worry about it.
Which is great. You grow into a larger role. So you delegate and let the AI do more stuff. So you still do stuff, but the AI will do more stuff as you get larger. That sounds awesome. Honestly, that sounds so great. Oh, I think the YouTube stream is futzing around. I apologize, folks.
Seems okay on my end.
Okay, maybe it's just me. Yeah, the internet seems mostly okay this morning. Maybe because Steam hasn't updated yet. So speaking of Steam, I did want to talk about, because we were talking about early access a little bit ago. We were also talking before the show the struggles of being a developer on Steam, and I would like to talk more about this because this is something we don't get to talk about enough, I think, and I kind of sometimes don't understand how anyone would want to be a developer. With the kind of mountain you have to climb to become successful, especially on a platform like Steam. So, what would you say are your biggest challenges right now being on Steam? I mean, clearly, like it's visibility, but what are like the big hurdles you're finding as a developer on Steam?
Well, as a developer, I wouldn't say that you have to fight the other developers, but it's something close to that. Basically, you have to fight for visibility. Wanted to go on Steam. It was 2 years ago, and there was this Greenlight thing. For those who don't know about it, Greenlight was a voting platform where people on Steam would just say, this game project looks good, I want it to go on Steam, or I'm not interested in this project. And when we went through Greenlight, we had something like 4,000 people voting, yes, I want to see this game. And at that time, it was on Steam, and there was a bit less game releasing that you have now. And it's been changing very fast. Greenlight was removed this year, and what we're seeing since last year is way, way, way more games getting on Steam. I think we have something like 100 games every week now.
It does feel like
crazy.
that. It feels like that. Yeah, yeah. It's insane.
So we don't because our priority is to make a great game. But yeah, it's getting visibility and getting people to notice the game can be pretty hard. And is that when people learn about the game, most of the feedback that we have is like, I never knew this game existed. I think we had a comment saying that just before on the chat, and it's something that we hear a lot. It's probably the biggest issue we have with Steam, and it's the reason of that is that I think everyone wants to make games. Maybe not everyone, but plenty of people want to make a game, and I understand it's great. I love making games, and since game tools are getting better and better, today at becoming a game, which is great, and the trade-off to that is that you have to fight for your game to be noticed.
Okay, hang on
something
one.
like
Sorry, go ahead.
90% of the games on Steam were released after 2014. I think that's what the statistic was.
I believe it. I totally believe it. Hang on one second. I'm gonna switch servers because we are getting some cutting out here and there. I'm gonna see if switching a server gets us a slightly better connection. 1 second. Okay, hopefully that does us better because we got some people saying you were cutting out there a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully that fixes the problem. That's the downside of doing this live, folks. Is stuff like that's gonna happen, and we can't control the internet. Sadly, there's only so much we can do. So sorry about the audio. Hopefully switching.
Now you know it's really live.
Yeah, sometimes switching servers fixes the problem. Sometimes it doesn't. But hopefully that takes care of the problem. So yeah, because you were saying like having Unreal, having Unity and whatnot makes game development a lot easier. But it sounds like these days developing is the easier part of making a game. It sounds like marketing and gaining visibility is the bigger struggle.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's the easiest part. I would say that it's the most interesting part, definitely. I think what we have to accept is that we have to work a lot on marketing to have a game and getting visibility. We also have to accept that just like in the music industry, not everyone is going to live from his work. And that's it's a bit sad, but at the same time, when everyone wants to sell something, if when you have so big a market, to not everyone is going to get a cut, basically. So I think it's something that we have to accept, and I wish that Steam maybe had a higher bar for getting on the platform, because
I
with
agree.
Greenlight you had some voting, and now that Greenlight is gone, you just have to pay a small fee, and your game is online. So
Which apparently everybody
I don't know.
has. Which apparently everyone has that fee because the garbage I've been seeing on Steam these last few months, especially, has been just atrocious. There's so much garbage on there, and and what annoys me is like when Steam decides to solve a problem by making us solve it for them, or they take the most bare bones solution to a problem like review bombing, for example, or visibility, for example, or and it sounds like what they're going to do with visibility is make curators more responsible for it, which in a way could be great for a curator, but that still like absolves them of doing more work and making their platform better. You know,
Yeah.
it's really frustrating.
The good thing is that at least they're giving everyone a shot, and they're not trying to choose who's going to win. But yeah,
True.
it's as a developer, it can be annoying to see some low effort games abilities that you do.
Oh my god,
But
like the asset flip games. I don't know if you've seen all these, but there's so many asset flip games where like they'll put something that was basically in the Unity shop with a bunch of trading cards on the market just to make money from the trading cards.
at least we know that if we do a great game, maybe we're not going to get noticed right away, but are going to test it and try it, and at some
That's
point
true.
people are going to see that there is a good game or that there isn't a good game. So I don't think that having too many games on Steam is that bad. For us, if there was more selection and maybe a higher bar for entry.
I
And at the
wish.
same time, we don't want to have something like Origin or GOG or platforms who select and have a very high bar for entry.
Right.
Because if we had only that, we wouldn't have a shot. Just like before Steam, if you wanted to do a game, you were not going to have your game getting on people's computers because no one would ever learn about your game. And it's quite a recent thing. So in a way, I'm still pretty happy that we do have Steam because at least we have a
Oh.
shot.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying I'm thrilled we have Steam. It's getting more games in more people's hands than ever before. It's great, but yeah, there are downsides. And I think one thing that's going to help you is that while there are games like Elite and whatnot, there aren't a ton of first-person, um, trading and fighting space games right now. Most people are making top-down games. You know, for
Yeah, we're
example,
seeing lots of multiplayer shooters, like
yeah,
competitive space shooters too.
yeah, like arena-based things and competitive things, and there aren't a lot of. And I really got to say, I appreciate that you are solely single player. I really appreciate that because like everyone wants multiplayer now. It's like no, you don't need multiplayer. Not everyone needs multiplayer. It's a crutch. God.
Uh, I think multiplayer is great too. It's just that we have to pick
Yeah.
priorities and not try to make a game do everything.
Yeah.
If you have 50 million if you have $50 million to make the game, okay, you can probably do some good stuff and not
Right.
choose between features. But as an indie, we have to have priorities.
Right. And I like I said, I really appreciate that because I'm tired of like games that have like either a single player that's just a tutorial for the multiplayer, or multiplayer that's like a tacked on half afterthought. Just focus on one or the other. And so I appreciate that you have focused on one. and are making the best game, because I think that's what'll help. I think that's in talking about the visibility problem on Steam, that's what'll help you and other games differentiate yourself, is not only the quality of the game you're making, but the fact that you're making something a little more unique. Than you're not trying to make a player underground battleground Fortnite, whatever that bull crap is type game, you know, or you're not trying to make a arena based first person shooter thing. You're doing your own thing, and there isn't a ton of competition in this niche. So that is probably what'll get you the legs, I think.
Yeah, and anyway, we wanted to make that game, and we didn't started to make the game thinking, oh, we're going to get rich. Space games, that's what everyone wants to play. If we wanted to get rich, I think there were other kind of games that we could have picked.
you would have made a MOBA. You would have made a mobile MOBA with loot crates and.
So I'm very happy that we work on that kind of game, because that's what we want to make in the first place.
And you can really tell. You can really tell, and playing your game, that a lot of love and care and attention has been given to this. It's nothing is really an afterthought, you know, that sort of thing. You can really tell that this is not only, you know, a great game, but you're making the game you would want to play. You know, which you can really tell by the quality of this thing.
And the player feedback as well that goes into the game, because the community is helping to make it better.
It's we're trying to read everything players have to say about it. We're trying to respond all the time when we can, and we're trying to be transparent about what we do. That's why we made the game source code available for everyone. That's why we have a public roadmap. We just want people to tell us what they want, and if it fits the vision that we have for the game, we just do it. And it's I have to say I love making people happy with the game. It's when you just work on a feature for weeks and you have people saying, "Thank you, that's what I wanted." It's a very good feeling.
And it's got to be tough striking that balance between giving what people want and staying true to your original vision of the game. You know,
sometimes it's even hard to just do what people want. With the manual docking, we saw that maybe half the players wanted manual docking, and the other half was telling us that they hated manual docking. And it wasn't even a question of whether we wanted it or not. We had players saying, "Hey, do it. Hey, don't do it." In that case, I think we made a decent compromise. But sometimes players don't agree on what they want. So we're trying to do something that works and that is fun. And we're trying not to force people to do something that they don't like in the game.
Right. And so far sorry, I'm still half awake and probably all over the place. Yeah, so far there has been nothing I haven't enjoyed in this game. Like, as I was saying earlier with the X games, I never want to build stations or deal with the economy much because it's such a chore, you know, in games like that. But in your game, you make the economy just feel like the river it is, if that makes any sense.
It is very fluid.
Yeah, it feels very fluid. It feels very, and you really make it easy for the player to dip their foot into that river, and get a feel for it, you know, with your excellent UI and everything. And you make the economy transparent as well. Like, this station needs this station produces this, you know, it's very clear and everything. So I got to give you guys props, because so many of these games have station building and I never do it. I just don't care. I just don't. I just want to fly around my ship, you know. But the nice thing about your game is, I just want to build a station in this sector, and it's going to trade on its own. You know, it's going to trade with other people. You know what I mean? on its own. I don't have to manage that myself, which just
Yeah.
makes sense.
Interesting story about that is that we are mostly a team of 2 working on the game. We also have someone working on the music, but most of the game it's a 2-man team. And Niavox, the other developer, is new features and simulation features and doing an interesting AI and that kind of stuff. And what I want is to have a clean, simple game that everyone can understand. And we basically fight all the time. One of us want to add something new, and I'm like, no, it's too complicated, and we talk and we talk and we talk, and in the end we have a good compromise that is interesting and that's not too complicated. I think even if we fight even if we fight all the time, it's the result is often interesting.
Well, whatever you guys fight about, it seems to be working. because again, this game.
It's
sorry.
At least we're getting results.
Yeah, you're definitely getting results because again, this game is just so. It's natural playing. That's the thing. Like it's a spaceship game, but it just because the menus are so clean and clearly laid out, and all the screens make sense, it just feels very natural to play this. You know,
you don't feel like you're flying a desk.
Exactly. Honestly. Oh my god. Exactly. You feel like you're actually in a ship making a difference, unlike some other games where you feel like you're flying a desk just on a hamster wheel, spinning your wheels and barely making an impact on the universe as a whole. Here you feel like you're actually making an impact, which is really, really nice. Because that's all you want to do. You want to feel like your decisions matter. You want to feel like what you're doing matters. And like if I transport a bunch of stuff from station A to station B just to do a contract, but ultimately it doesn't matter, I'm just gonna stop playing that game. Like what's the point? Nothing I do matters. Elite. Damn it. Sorry. I'm so burnt out on that. Because like that's one like your game and like a game like Jumpgate or a game like Evercrown with a smaller universe can make it so a player's decision actually matters. A player's decision has weight. And I really got to appreciate the work you do in making the player feel like what they're doing matters. That's so important.
The most important things that we wanted to nail with the game. We wanted the player to be able to choose a path and do something and actually see the world react to his actions.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to do. I understand that if you're doing a game that has a lot of art production and so on, it can be very hard to create something like that where the world reacts, because then you have to create different versions of the world. I'm not just talking about space sims, but if you do a game like The Witcher, it's very hard to actually have different outcomes, because you're not going to create 50 different versions of your world, because it would be just too much work. And some games try to do something like this, and the chance that we have is that we don't really have a story, at least not yet. The stories that we have is which corporation is going to get on top, which faction is going to rule, who is going to get wiped out by pirates. And that's something that we can change easily. We don't have to write different voice acting lines. We don't have to create new cinematics, and it's a chance that we have, and I think we've made good use of that.
Oh, and the game will have a story. It will have an overarching story to it once it's released.
Yeah, at least it's a plan. We've been working on a story for quite some time, and again, that's something different players had different views on. Some players want a story as soon as possible, and I think most players didn't really care, at least not yet. So we're not putting a lot of priority on that, but it's something that we want to add later to the game. We want a story, maybe not about the companies, the factions, but we want to have some kind of new elements to the universe of the game.
Well, it's interesting because when you have an open game like this, adding a narrative can be tricky. Like, I think games that have done it well, like Privateer or Freelancer, for example, they like have a good mix of, oh, good, go do your own thing for a while, and then eventually, oh, by the way, you have to come here now, or as soon as you can to do this thing, to move the story forward. So
I think we're going to try to do something that is as dynamic as the game itself.
Oh my god!
Which is why we're not exactly sure. But basically, we'd like to have some kind of enemy that everyone agrees is the enemy, and try to work on that if we can make it like the missions, like the contracts, make that a persistent feature of the game. Not much about that. It's
you should take a page from Heavy Gear and have folks from Earth reconnecting with you guys and going, oh yeah, this is all ours now. And you guys are like, hey, no, wait a minute. No, it isn't.
Yeah, it's exactly the kind of stuff that we want to add.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, because that kind of stuff is fun. That kind I don't know. Are you familiar with Heavy Gear at all?
Not at all.
Oh, okay. It's a role playing. It's a mecha role playing game, but they've also been a couple of computer games where you're on this like long lost human colony called Terra Nova, and then eventually Earth finds you again, and they want to be like, hey, you're with us right now. You're ours, right? And Terra Nova's like, no, we're not. We're independent. We've been doing fine without you guys. And it's like, oh no.
I guess we can't do that anymore.
So it's pretty great. It's pretty great. There's a lot of great lore in there. Even if you just want to read the lore, it's pretty awesome. Oh, thank you, honey. My wife has made me coffee, which I desperately need.
Starflight Gemini Warlords did something like that as well.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm still going through that one. But that's another great example of mixing openness with narrative. It kind of does the same thing as Privateer, where it's like you do your own thing for a while, then it's like, oh, by the way, come over here. You know? So those might be good examples to look at. I know you want to make it all dynamic, but that can like maybe give you like a idea of how to meld it in together. Because it can't be easy, you know? You have all these dynamic elements going on. Because it sounds like there's just as much going on in the background simulation. Can you guys hear that, by the way? That rumbling? Can you hear that?
It.
Yeah, that's a car. Side note, that is a car that is parked in the car park underneath my apartment that seems to love to start and then idle for several minutes whenever I'm recording anything. Like, it's like they know I'm here. And they're like, oh, I'm gonna start my Japanese my Japanese rice beater with no muffler and let it sit for 10 minutes. Sorry. It's so annoying. But yeah, this game doesn't, I don't know if it needs story. Like, it sounds like the emergent qualities with the corporation and everything might be enough. But yeah, maybe if, at some point adding an antagonist that like everyone has to unify against or something like that, that might be fun. Like, we've been fighting each other the whole game. Oh no, yeah. Aliens. Something like that.
Yeah, it basically what Game of Thrones has been doing for the past 6 seasons.
And oh, I don't watch Game of Thrones. Really, what have they been doing? You know what? Anyway, I got through season 1, but once they killed Sean Bean, I was like, no Sean Bean, I don't care anymore. I'm done. And then I stopped watching.
It's not like we can. I was talking about that earlier, but since everything is supposed to be dynamic and every resource is supposed to be in a closed loop, we can just create a new fleet from nowhere and say, okay, these are the bad guy now. We can't just take one of the companies of the game and say this company is the enemy now, because maybe by the time we have the story thing, maybe by that time you have killed everyone in your universe. So maybe we don't. Maybe you don't even have an enemy left to fight. So we can't use that, and we have to create something new. And that's what we're trying to do.
Could you do some kind
That's
of?
what we will be trying to do with the story thing.
I'm sorry.
Well,
Go ahead, Spat. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I was just playing Starpoint Gemini Warlords just yesterday, and in the Titan's Return DLC, that actually you get to a point in your leveling, and then an event comes up, and you can decide whether or not you want to continue playing in free roam mode, or have this story aspect trigger. And if you decide to do that, then the story happens, and a whole bunch of ships enter into your sandbox. So they actually did work it in so that if you want to play completely free roam, you can, or you can take on the story, and then suddenly this faction comes in, and then you have to deal with that.
It's another way to do it.
Yeah, and we're not trying to tell you how to do it. We're just throwing examples at you to try to be helpful. Like
exactly,
okay.
Yeah, like this is how these guys did it.
From players to see what they like and try to do something that is good. So it's it's always okay to give feedback.
Right, but yeah, we gotta start wrapping up. We have a hard stop soon. So yeah, folks. Again, the game is Helium Rain. It is on Steam currently for what, $15, right? $15.
And in early access.
Yeah, it's in early access.
But very much worth it in the early access state.
Oh my god, it feels more complete than some other actually so-called complete space trading games right now, because
naming names.
No, we're naming names. Elite. I just wanted to say, you seem to have a much tighter and clearer focus on what you want to do, Grinnell, with your game than Star Citizen or Elite or other people who have a lot more money. And maybe that's the thing. You're smaller, so you have to be more tightly focused. But I think ultimately that's probably going to make a better game, because you know your limits, and so you're not going to get too big for your britches. You know, I think ultimately your tighter focus will be what gives you the legs over, say, someone like Elite, you know. But yeah, the folk. Oh my god, I can't even freaking talk. I have to go to work after this. The game, folks. Oh my god. I think I need more.
You can do it.
I can do it. The game, folks, is Helium Rain. It's on Steam. Is it? Someone was asking about this earlier. I forgot to mention. Is it only on Steam right now, or is it going to be like DRM free at all? Or is it just going to be on Steam?
Now it's on Steam, but with the DRM feature disabled, and we'd like to bring it to GOG at some point.
Okay.
But at the moment, it's not something that they want. So we will try to do it. Yeah, I know. So we'll try to do that in the future. Once the game is out of early access, we try to release it on other platforms for people who really don't want Steam. At the moment, it's pretty easy for us because we have just one platform to take care of. So it's easier to work with. Right. And once we don't have to update the game every month, it will probably be easier for us to add new platforms.
That makes sense. Yeah,
we'll probably have to. We also want to have a modding SDK at some point.
Oh,
so we definitely don't want people to not have access to the game. We want everyone to have access to the game, and we'd like people to offer mods for it in the future if we can do it. It's not like we don't want to support anything else than Steam. It's more like right now it's the only platform that we're going to work with in the short term. And once we are done with the early access, we will try to ship it on other platforms.
Okay, that's good because some folks apparently don't like Steam. I don't fully get that, but okay. Yeah. If you want to limit yourself, sure, but yeah, I don't Oh yeah, someone said that now even though you're just on Steam, they're probably going to buy it. Since you're going to have modding, is that going to be ships? Because someone just asked if you get to design your own ships. It doesn't sound like that's going to be like an in-game thing, but it sounds like you'll be able to mod your own ships in if you want to.
Yeah, so you can't build your own ship in the game. That's not what this game is about.
Right.
Yeah, if we have modding, ships are the number one thing that you will be able to mod. It's definitely the one thing that we want mods to offer. The other thing would be sectors with creating a new sector in a special place in the world. That's something that we could do with mods. And we wanted to have stories with mods. And it's maybe not going to be as easy as we thought. But yeah, if we have mods, ships are literally the only thing that we know we would have in mods.
Right. And that makes sense because you have so many dynamic elements. Adding mods to it might break things. So you don't want to break things. So that makes sense. So I hope that answered your question, Planetfall, over on YouTube. But yeah, again, folks, the game is Helium Rain, $15, early access. It is awesome. I'm not even kidding. It is awesome. If you want a game that's kind of like X or Privateer, but much more streamlined and more fun, this is the game to get. It's $15 is a steal for this, for all the crap that's in here. A total steal. Oh my god!
You start with one little shuttle, and then you can build an entire corporation out of that.
Or not. Or not. You can just be a mission runner or a pirate. You know, you can do your thing, and it's great because the game doesn't like force you to do any of these things. It's awesome. So yeah, Helium Rain. It's great. Just a couple of programming notes. Thursday we're playing. Oh god, what the hell's the name of that game?
Throne of Lies.
Throne of Lies. It's a mafia/werewolf style game. Don't know if it's going to be any good, but the developer sent us some keys, so we're like, yeah, it's a board game. We'll give it a shot. Why not? It might be terrible. Hopefully it's not, but we'll try it. Sunday, we're having our next monthly MMO meetup, and it's the first to feature Star Wars Galaxies. While the game itself is free to play, you do need to own installation media for this one. So if you do want to join us, go to eBay or Amazon right now and get some Star Wars Galaxies installation media to install the Legends mod. It's amazing. There are two separate mods running Star Wars Galaxies right now, which is incredible. We're going to be playing the Legends one because that's the one that has the spaceships in it. So that's Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, if you want to join us. And then next week on the podcast, on Halloween, we're not doing anything Halloween themed. It's just funny that it's on Halloween. We're going to be talking to the developer of Dath Origins, which we've not played yet, but we should fix that. We really should fix that. So, Grinnell, I want to thank you for coming on and talking to us in the middle of your afternoon about Helium Rain. Again, we love your game. It is just joyous to play. It is so much fun. It is just so much fun, so well made, and it still has 6 months to a year to go. That just blows my mind. that's not already 1.0. But yeah, folks, again, we can't gush about this game enough. We're just gaga over this thing. So yeah, check it out. Helium Rain. It's on Steam. Go buy it. Go buy it right now. I guess my last question is, there's a couple of sales coming up. 3, I think. There's a Halloween sale, a Black Friday sale, and a Christmas sale. Are you going to be taking part in any of those?
Yeah, we will be taking part in those. So 2 days before you buy it.
Oh man. Okay, yeah. So folks, maybe wait a couple days before you buy it if you want to get it on sale, but it's only $15, worth $15. But if you want, wait, get it on sale, that's fine too, but get it. Seriously, if you like space games at all, this is a game you need to own. And if you don't buy it, I will disown you. You'll be kicked out of Discord, off of Facebook. We will never talk to you again. No, I would never do that. Well, never. Anyway,
thank you. A little ridicule, though. But...
Yeah, we might make fun of you. We might point and laugh at you, like, "Why haven't you bought it yet?" Oh my god, I'm losing my mind. Oh my god. But yeah, the game is Helium Rain. Go buy it. It's great. We love it, and I'll just end it there. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening and engaging in the chat room today. If you haven't, like us on iTunes if you haven't already, and review us, because we have some great reviews, and the more reviews we get, I try not to beg about this a lot, but I'm just going to throw it out there. The more reviews we get, the more visible we become, and the more visible the games we're trying to help promote become. So it's a win-win for everyone. So please go to iTunes and review us if you haven't already. Subscribe on YouTube, Twitch, wherever you want. Come to our Discord.
Hit us up on Discord.
Yeah, come to our Discord and our Facebook. We're very active. We're very friendly. Well, most of us are very friendly. Some of us are jerks, but most of us are very friendly.
And there's a Patreon if you want to.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, we have a
bit.
We have a Patreon. It helps pay for the hosting, and it helps pay for SpaceGameJunkie.com and all that stuff. Planetfall. No, you can't design ships in the game, but you can order ships in a shipyard. So that's the shipbuilding that's in the game right now. You can order existing design ships in a shipyard. So you can buy a freighter, you can buy a fighter. So yeah, there is a ship building tutorial, but you're not it's not like Gal Civ where you're just putting parts on a thing or reassembly or something. That's not what this game is about. It's more like the privateer type or freelance type thing where there were already ships in the game and you got to play with those. So it's like that. But yeah, thanks for watching and listening, folks, and we will see you next time. Have a great day, afternoon, night, wherever you are. And bye-bye.